We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our Conversations and Coffee on this 20th day of March 2025. And this is the day we launch into spring. Yeah. So let us celebrate and thank Mother Nature. We made it through an especially cold winter, but we are here. And we celebrate our Earth with our guest artist today, David Greenberg. Yes. David is one of our 3 artists celebrating the Earth in this amazing exhibit titled 3 for the Earth. Tatiana Habiska and Denise Remecki have been in recent conversations and coffee as artists with David here in this beautiful exhibit. David shares that most of his career, he's been a professional scientist. Crucial attitudes for that job are a passion for the natural world and a desire to understand it. One of the means by which he accomplishes this is through photography. Thus, David has been photographing the natural world for over 60 years, starting as a preteen. He suffered the smell of developer, stop bath, and fixer, and learned to master many now obsolete dark room devices and techniques. Anyone remember those? Ah, I see. Enlarger, filters, washer, dryer, and chemical-infused photo paper. In 1988, it took him only 2 minutes with a scanner when things changed, and a computer to convince him he would never need to suffer the glow of the red or yellow safe lights of a dark room, or to smell noxious chemicals, or to waste sheet after sheet of expensive photo paper ever again. Hallelujah, right? David has been primarily interested in arthropods, creatures with exoskeletons and arthropods. Aha. What did I say? Ah, I'm sorry. And jointed limbs, insects, spiders, crabs. These animals, David says, are a challenge to photograph. While they are marvels of nature, they look strange to us. In our modern world, our interactions with them happen largely by chance, except crabs, which we prey on, and are mostly negative, even though these creatures are essential for our existence. Insects, especially, are unlike cuddly mammals, that they usually invoke revulsion. Toy stores do not sell plush cockroach dolls, a reaction David does not share. He and I were sharing earlier that my husband is a connoisseur of the claw, and he will get these wonderful animals that my students, college, university students, will grab from a bag after we come together for a retreat or whatever, but they totally ignore this one, and then they'll go to another one. So I think that must be like the cockroach, analogous to, what's that, huh? So from a human nature point of view, you are saying, we don't want the cockroach, right? A reaction that you don't share at all, right? Because you love them all.
They're all interesting.
They're all interesting. Compared to other photographers, David shares that his approach to photographing insects is a little different than ignoring. Firstly, he's interested in presenting the wildlife he captures on film to illustrate how they live and behave, not just for shock value or as curiosities. He tries to make his photographs actual portraits of his subjects, and you're going to tell us more about that. As we look at these, this is not zoomed in. This is real life David right next to these creatures that we can hardly see. Amazing. David shares that he enjoys photography in all forms, not just insects. Birds are particularly fascinating because one can often see their dinosaur ancestry in how they look and behave. And in recent years, as concern about climate change and the increasing disappearance of many animal species has grown, David's focus now includes not only insects, spiders, and other animals, but also natural and man-made landscapes. As the natural beauty of our forests and landscapes have been changing, not always for the better, David has begun recording and highlighting landscapes and the beauty of our natural world. He now devotes efforts to recording on landscapes as well as animals, creating not just pictures, but portraits of the country and its wonders. Some of these are on display in the current exhibition. And since then, many of David's photos originated locally in metro parks like Inniswood, Slate Run, the Franklin Park Botanical Garden, local arboretums, and other natural settings in central Ohio. David wants to show us that the natural world is not distant. It surrounds us. It envelops us. And you call us to embrace it, bringing the natural world to us today, David. Thank you. We're delighted to have you. Now I'm going to share this with you.
I guess it works.
And we'll bring it over. Here, I'll get behind you. There we go. Got it?
Stay. Good computer.
Right.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you all for being here today. I want to explain that I will deal with very few of the pictures that are on display here, although some of them will appear. But my title, you may have noticed, is Do Not Trust the Camera, the Photographer, or Mother Nature. The object being saying that what you see in the camera, what you see on the final photograph, may not reflect reality. My goal in taking pictures is to try to reflect what I saw, not what the camera saw necessarily, because the camera lies, as it says, and I'll give you some examples of that. Plus, I will talk about how Mother Nature also fools you by disguising things and hiding things. And finally, I'll show you some photographs that I particularly like, that I think illustrate the notion of what this exhibition is about. That is the Earth, and displaying what's on the Earth and giving you another view of the Earth. So, let's get started. How the camera lies. What the camera sees and what your eye sees are not necessarily the same. Here's an example. This photograph was taken in Alaska, and that's the Aurora Borealis. As it happens, this was on a boat that I was sailing on, and I was sound asleep, and somebody saw the Aurora Borealis and woke up the entire boat so everybody could take pictures of it. That did not make me happy. I was sound asleep. It was not good, and I've never forgiven that person for doing that, be that as it may. You have to get, I can't illustrate this, you'll have to get the picture. The boat has two decks. There's an upper deck and there's a lower deck. On the lower deck are all these people taking pictures of the Aurora Borealis. And because I was on the upper deck, I got to look at their cameras, and they all had digital cameras, and what they were looking at, what their camera was seeing, was right out to be easy to be seen. They all looked like this. This is not what I was seeing. I was not seeing this green miasma. What I was seeing was this. This is what the aurora borealis looked like with my eyes, not with the camera. It was different. Obviously, it's bluer. It's actually more interesting. And just to confirm this morning in the New York Times is this picture. I'm sorry I couldn't incorporate this into my display, my talk just soon. But you can see that it's the same kind of green that we saw here. So I don't know what the photographers were doing. They were looking at their camera instead of looking at the thing that they were photographing. And you find this fairly frequently. If anybody else wants to see this, they're welcome to come up and look. Photographers often will do this. They will concentrate on what they're seeing on the camera rather than what's really out there. I try to focus on what's really out there. Here's another example. This is an example of how the photographers lie. This is a picture of a water strider. This is a picture I took in California, as it happens. And you can see there's water strider down there, but it's not good enough. You have to make it bigger. And so this is what it looks like. What in particular is interesting about this is you'll notice the depressions around the water strider's legs. It's sometimes called the Jesus bug because it walks on water. It eats insects, other insects, and it's covered with little hairs that are water repellent. That's what enables it to do this. But the thing that it's walking on, the thing that really keeps it up, is surface tension. So, if you'll forgive me, I'll give a brief disquisition into what surface tension is. Here you can see how the water is actually deformed, and the light that flows around it is actually treated as it looks like a lens. It darkens where the feet are as reflected in the shadow. But let me talk about why water striders do not sink. How many of you, and you'll forgive me if this gives away your age, remember the Mickey Mouse Club? Yeah, everybody who's over the age of about 50, right? Okay. So, do you remember this? The Mickey Mouse Club hat? Looks familiar? This is the shape of a water molecule. That's why I'm showing you this. This is the actual this is how it actually looks. In the middle is a big oxygen, a huge chemical, and on the sides are the little hydrogens. But because of the structure of these things, because of what is called a hydrogen bond, the oxygen is slightly negative and the hydrogens are positive. So the positives and the negatives attract, and you get this kind of situation where the oxygen sticks to the hydrogen of other water molecules. Very incestuous. But the result of this is that these things sticking together are strong enough, they create enough of a solid type surface for the water strider to walk on. So that's why the water strider can actually exist. Plus it has the water resistant, water repellent hairs on its feet and all over its body. So that's one of the wonderful things that nature does. It creates these things through evolution to occupy each and every niche that's around us, so that all the creatures with their varying forms can survive and thrive and reproduce, which is how we all got here through 2 million years. Okay, now I've told you about the camera lying and the photographer lying. How does Mother Nature do for lying? If you look at this, what is the immediately thing you see? Hopefully you see a lizard, right? Has an eye and has a mouth and looks quite hungry. However, this is not a lizard. This is a moth. You see the moth's body, the moth's legs, and those are the moth's wings, which when folded up, produce something that looks like a lizard, thus scaring off anything that might eat the moth, because it sees the lizard, who is going to be a lot hungrier for other insects or who knows what. So this is how Mother Nature can lie to you also. Find the fish. Do you see the fish? See how cleverly if this were actually the right density of light, you wouldn't be able to see the fish at all. But anyway, this is another way that Mother Nature can fool you into hiding the things that want to live and develop coloration, again through evolution, so that they blend into their background so that predators cannot find them. I found this one particularly interesting. A bit of trash wandering around on its own. Or is it? Okay, let's see if I can get this started. Just follow this little creature around for a while. I took this on the back of my house, in the back wall of my house. I was attracted to this creature, or this thing, I don't know, didn't know what it was, just bumbling around in the back of the house. This is called a junk bug. It's actually a silverfish larva, or also known as an aphid lion. And they're very beneficial because they eat aphids. Farmers like them. They don't bite people. And they're covered, as you see, with this protective coloration, or protective layer. This is a better view of the actual bug part of it. And those things that it's carrying around are the dead bodies of its prey. It kills something, and presumably because of to provide protective coloration, or maybe just vanity, I don't know, it collects them, puts them on its back, and then wanders around. This creature will then mature into a real lacewing, which is a very pretty insect. It's a very nice looking, as you can see here. This is not my photograph, this is off the internet. And that's a lacewing. I'm sure you've all seen them now and then. But that creature that's wandering around is its larva. That is, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It'll develop into this. It's an early stage. How photographers shade reality to present the truth. So this is the original picture of give me a word. The word has escaped me. Stork. It's a stork. This was taken in Europe, in France. And you can see that it's a little difficult to make out. But if you're a good photographer and have a good computer, this is what it looks like up close.
Did you take that then?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
The only one I didn't take was the picture of the lacewing adult. And these are charming creatures. The Europeans protect them because then they build nests, or the Europeans build nests for them in various houses because they're considered good luck. Here's another example. This is a picture I took of a heron flying above the Hackensack River. As you can see, it's nice, but I was not skilled when I took this picture, and I ignored the clouds. But later on, because of the magic of photography, I put the clouds in. So it's not an entirely 100% honest picture, but this is how I saw it when I first took the picture. And I was always disappointed that I had missed being able to bring out the clouds that were behind this heron. This is one of the pictures that's hanging up somewhere here. Now I want to show you, the next picture I want to show you is the difficulties that a photographer has in trying to produce a picture like this. Oops. This is an example of noise. Now you can see how the spotty things there over there on the right, that's noise that's produced in a digital camera. The reason that that this photograph is noisy is that it was taken with a very high ISO. That is, it was very sensitive to light. The higher the ISO, the more, if I can put in terms of grains, if you're thinking about an old-fashioned negative, more grains it trips and makes dark. The same thing is true here. So it was very sensitive, and it's overly sensitive. It's producing too many dark spots, or in this case, multicolored spots, because that's what happens in a digital camera. And once when you finally get rid of them, you can produce a nice picture. So the camera is not always your friend, and you have to have means to be able to solve some of the problems that come up when you take a picture. This is the full picture. This is a picture of a sunset in Alaska. You could like it or not, but it illustrates that you don't see any grain and you don't see any other problems occurring with this particular picture, because you can nowadays, because of software that's available, you can correct those things. Now, I don't know if you can see this one. Projects funny, it's a little more purple. This is I put this in here as an example of really bad grain or really bad digital noise. And you can see this is a frog. This frog, or toad, I'm not sure which it is. I think it's a frog. I was walking along. It was very, very dark. And I happened to look down and saw that there was something at my feet, which I couldn't see. I said, "What is that?" And so I had my camera. I knew that if I set it to a high ISO, I would be able to see what was there. So I pointed it down at this thing, I took the picture, and I could look at the picture and see what it was at my feet. But it was a very high ISO, and you can't really tell from the way this is projected, but it is full of grain, it is full of dots, it is full of messy looking things, which you can do away with if you have the right software. So you can take pictures in the dark with modern digital cameras, as long as you're prepared to fiddle with the picture afterwards so that it doesn't look spotty. By the way, if anybody has any questions about anything I'm showing you or about any of the pictures of the wall, I'm more than happy to go on and at length about them. Just let me know. Or turn a boring picture into a work of art. This is the original of this picture. It happens to be a canal in some European city. I believe it's Gdansk. And you see, it's an ordinary picture, an ordinary canal. But if you want to turn it into what I saw when I saw this, you have to do something with it. You have to get rid of some of this stuff, and you have to emphasize other things. So with enough work, you can turn it into this. I did not add anything to this picture. Those colors you see, and like I said, it's a little bit over bright on this particular screen. Those colors were there, but not brought out. You couldn't see them with your eye by itself. I had to use the computer to emphasize things besides the ordinary stuff you just see. So you can turn a boring picture into something that's more enticing by the proper work and understanding that the camera will lie, and the camera will see what it wants to see. But if you have an eye to be able to bring out the more interesting parts of the picture, then you can do it with modern photography. Yes?
Before you get too far away from some of the insect pictures, you have to be pretty agile to do that if you're actually getting eye level with the bug, for example.
That's
or
right.
using equipment to get down there. Are you getting down eye to eye with the bug, so to speak?
Usually, yes.
Oh, okay.
Even though I'm not as flexible as I used to be.
Okay.
But I don't really. I mean, I do have a telephoto lens, but it's not very telephoto. I prefer to get close to the insect because then you don't have the problems that you do, like the grain, for example, if you can get close up. And they've never attacked me, by the way. Question?
So I'm looking at your pictures on the wall, and I asked you when you brought them in if they were painted. because some of them look like actual paintings. Now you're telling us that you're looking, you see this when you see that picture, you see that. And the other picture looked like it was a picture. But this looks like a painting. I watch these guys that paint that are in here, and they see different colors of whatever they're painting, and it's amazing how you see that color instead of just the boring picture. And I don't see where you guys come up with seeing those colors. It's amazing.
Maybe that's why people like me are sometimes designated artists. I do not think of myself as an artist, but to be able to paint what have painters been done throughout time? They set up something and they paint it as they see it. They don't see it necessarily as the rest of the world sees it. I mean, all of modern painting is basically that, distorting and projecting things that they see with their vision. And you can do the same thing with photography. People say they look like paintings. I'll take their word for it. I don't see it that way. I'm just trying to project what I see in a photograph.
It is called a fine art, isn't it? Photography is a fine art.
I'm sorry?
Isn't photography called a fine art? In a lot of schools, fine art photography.
Is it?
Yes.
I had no idea.
You are an artist.
Remember, my profession has not been for the past 60 years photography. It's been science and genetics. So
Forgive me, I put you there.
that's okay. I mean, this is what I do now. Mother Nature's creations are wonderful and a bit scary. So this is a cicada shell. Cicadas, you've all encountered cicadas, right? One time or another? You should say yes or no. Good, okay. So you know what cicadas are. So this is a cicada nymph shell. Cicadas are, when they mate, the females lay their eggs in the ground, and the cicadas are then underground for the next 13 or 17 years, or 16 years, or 13. There are a number of years. They live underground, sucking plant roots and getting bigger. And then, when it's time for them to emerge, they crawl up, as you've all seen sometime or another, they crawl up out of the ground. They shed their shells, which is what this is. This is an empty cicada shell. This is how it looked underground for all those years. And they come out and are something else. This is a cicada emerging from its shell. It's pretty scary, I think you'll admit. It's not something you'd like to cuddle with at night. But
Are you right there?
I'm about 2 feet away from it. I mean, it's not going to eat me. Cicadas don't bite. They don't even really have any mouth parts. They're just reproductive machines. All they do is they come out, they fly, they mate, and they die. And so this is what they look like when they come out of that shell, which looks scary, I think you'll admit. It's not the kind of thing you want to encounter late night in an alley. But in fact, they're relatively harmless. What parents will do for their children. This is an Arctic tern. This is one illustration of how birds really did develop from dinosaurs. And you sometimes see the dinosaur-like behavior in these creatures. So this is a very pretty bird. They're all over the Arctic. They're very aggressive. Here's 2 Arctic terns attacking a sheep. Now this, you've got to admit, takes a lot of chutzpah to attack a creature that's much, much bigger than you are. They may already know that this sheep is not going to do anything to them, and they're not going to do anything to the sheep. So why are they doing this? We'll get to that. The terns will also attack people, and they're much easier to attack than sheep, as a matter of fact, since sheep have a lot of hair, a lot of fur, and they can't get through it, and tough skins. Humans are not quite like that. But you see these people who are walking along this road with terns all around them are holding up these sticks. Those sticks are to keep the terns from attacking them. So if you ever find yourself in a place where there are Arctic terns, I suggest that you get a stick and make sure that they don't come down on you. So why are the terns doing this? What do they get out of it? What does it do for them? That's why the terns are attacking the sheep and the people. This is a young Arctic tern, apparently wandered away from its nest while its parents are out there attacking sheep and people. You gotta admit, it's a cute little bird, right?
Did you have your stick ready when you took the picture?
Yeah, that's what I was.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you have your stick ready when you took that picture?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't carry the stick. I was counting on everybody else to protect me, sort of like group immunity. This is another scary-looking bird, and it should be this. This creature, and I call it that. It's a frigate bird, and you may know that a frigate is a ship. It's a warship. It's fast. It's maneuverable, as these creatures are, and it's generally a pirate or something that's some aggressive ship. And that's why these frigate birds are called frigates birds, because they are aggressive. This one is a male, which you can tell by the blotch of red below its beak, which they inflate when in the mating season. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. But what's interesting about these frigate birds is they are pirates. They attack other birds to take the food away from them. They will attack a bird in the air until the bird vomits up its last meal, and then the frigate bird will go and eat that last meal while they're flying. So you don't necessarily, if you're a bird, you want to stay away from frigate birds. They're very big. The wingspan can be 7 feet. They spend their time in the air, looking down at the ocean, trying to find other birds that they can attack. And they're magnificent looking, although, as you can see from this one, they're very scary looking. This is a male frigate bird. You can see its pouch is expanded because it's apparently during the mating season, and it's hoping to attract a female. Let's see if I can do this. This is a female frigate bird feeding its young. It goes and gets a meal, comes back to the nest, and then opens its mouth where its chick sticks its beak down the mother's throat and pulls out what's in its stomach for its nourishment. So this is one of example of Mother Nature's perhaps less sanitary notions of feeding its young. But this is something
How
that...
far away are you from them?
What?
As you film this, how far away are you?
Oh, 10 feet.
Oh, that's a marvel.
This was in the Galapagos, where these creatures are all over. And the animals in the Galapagos don't know from people. People are just another animal that doesn't bother them, and they pretty much ignore most humans. And it's very easy to get very close to the animals. In fact, during this trip to the Galapagos, the problem was to stay away from the animals, because in one particular instance, there was a baby seal, or a baby sea lion, I guess it was, who was very interested in one of our members of our party and kept trying to follow her. But since we were warned to stay at least 6 feet away from the animal, she kept backing up, and the baby seal kept trying to follow her. It was very amusing. Finally, she was backed up against a tree, and there was nowhere else to go, so the baby seal came and sniffed around, and then she ran away. So the Galapagos is a great place to look for animals and look at animals and see their behavior. It's really a wonderful place. Unfortunately, getting overrun by people is my understanding. Didn't I just see this? You can watch it again.
Is that your favorite place to go to do photography, or do you have another
The places I go to the most are the metro parks. I would often go there to take pictures of insects because one of the things that has happened recently, this in the past year or year or two, is that the insects that are in my neighborhood in Bexley have disappeared. There are very few insects nowadays. If you think about, if you drive along the highway, those of you who remember those days, when you'd have to drive along the highway and stop periodically to clean all the insects off your windshield. Nowadays, you don't have to do that because the number of insects has declined so much. So it's been particularly bad for me, who likes to take pictures of insects, to see that the insects are going away or dying. There's a lot of spraying going on now, especially for mosquitoes, where people are particularly scared of the H5N1 virus, which is not spread all that far, but they're afraid of what it'll turn into. So they're killing mosquitoes and everything else that's in the neighborhood that walks on 6 legs, or 8 legs even. So that's created a difficulty for me, who likes to take pictures of insects. And insects are a lot more plentiful than naked women, yes?
Wow. So, okay. So insects are going away, but you're still the photographer, probably improving your skills.
Yeah.
How do you stay in shape to be able to get the pictures you get?
I exercise. Yeah, it's not so easy. Even if you exercise, as it happens, you still get old. Just one of those things. Let's see if I can get the next one here. All right, yeah, come on. Go to the next picture. This is a male giant water bug. And those bumps on its back are the eggs that it carries. The female lays the eggs on the back of the male, and the male tends the eggs until they hatch. This is a reversal of the usual, what people think is the usual way of who takes care of the children. In this case, it's the male that takes care of the children. These giant water bugs, by the way, are very interesting creatures. Some places they're caught as food in the East. I've seen pictures of them for sale in bazaars where people will eat them, and it's hard to imagine for me. Eating insects is not kosher, so it's very bad. Anyway, but there are a few insects that will also, or a few other creatures, where the male takes care of the young. This is one of them. The seahorse, there's a pouch on the front of the seahorse's abdomen, I guess you can call it an abdomen, where the female will deposit her eggs. They will mix with the sperm that the male throws into this pouch, and then the young will develop and eventually hatch and fly out of the male's pouch to become more new seahorses. And again, so this is another one of those occasions where the male is responsible for seeing that the young develop and for protecting them later on. Also, there are some spiders are the same way, and snakes that will also protect their young this way. I think there's a variety of crocodile where when the eggs hatch, the males will protect the young by storing them in its mouth. Crocodile's mouth is not necessarily something you would like to think of as a place to live, but there you have it. This is another particularly interesting seahorse, which looks like a piece of a plant, but it's good. Again, it's good camouflage. So again, nature is telling you that you should keep the predators away by looking like something else.
And you were snorkeling doing that, or scuba? How did you get that?
That's from an aquarium.
Oh, okay.
I have no shame. I'll take pictures in an aquarium, even though the creatures are captured. I take pictures in zoos, too. Cute things that animals do. This is called a hummingbird moth. There's a picture over there. I don't know if you want to get closer. The first time I ran into one of these things was in fact in Europe, when I was standing there and suddenly this creature flew by my ear and I saw it and I said, oh, that's a hummingbird. Except it's not a hummingbird, it's a moth that acts like a moth. I mean, they're fuzzy. You want to pet them. They're so cute, and they behave in interesting ways. This is a number of hummingbird moths that are having their dinner at the flowers. Like butterflies, they have this long proboscis that they stick into the flowers to suck out the nectar. They move very quickly, obviously, and I always found them very fascinating. I don't think there are any around here. They tend to be, are there? Does anybody know if these things are around here?
Yeah, I've had them in my backyard.
You have? Well, they've never come to, do you have flowers in your backyard?
Yes.
What kind of flowers?
Monarda.
Ah, interesting, because I've seen them in Georgia, and I've seen them in Germany, but I haven't seen them here in Columbus, although I would like to, because they really are cute. They're nice to follow. They're nice to follow their behavior and see what they're doing.
David, when you're out and you see an unusual creature that you've never seen before, how do you find out what they are?
Ah,
So everybody knows.
the question was, how do I identify the creatures that are out there? I use my cell phone. There's an app for that. I mean, for the insects anyway, I have the one for insects. There might be one for birds too, for all I know, but I have less interest in birds. Or I'll look them up. I have lots of books that can help me identify creatures. The junk bug, for example, there was no help. I just had to explore and try and figure out what it was. That was a tricky one. All right, we've seen you. I don't know why it won't go to the next. There we go. These are two polar bears. Again, I wish this screen was not overlit because it's much brighter than I intended it to be as a photograph. And you can see these are two polar bears. It's a mother and a cub, a almost full-grown cub. And aren't they cuddly looking? Aren't they cute? You just want to go out and pet them? They're the largest land predator on Earth. They're very, very vicious. You want to stay away from them if you see one. In fact, when we were in Alaska, where I took this picture, well, actually it was northern Canada, where I took this picture. If we went out of the boat, they sent out a party of people with guns to make sure to keep the polar bears away, because the polar bears will attack. And obviously, polar bears living in this environment, it's very difficult for them to find food. Usually the seals or some other sea creatures is what they eat. Seals, otters, whatever there is. So they tend to be very vicious, and they tend to, in fact, there was one place where the polar bears caught a seal, and you could watch them eat the seal, strip its skin off. It's quite gruesome. So you want to stay away from them, however cute you may think they are. Let's see. Again, this is just a bit overlit, but you can see this is a family of polar bears, the mother and the two cubs wandering across the sea ice, because no doubt looking for blowholes for seals, which is their principal food. They were cute. They're, like I said, they're cute looking. Just stay away from them.
Where do these bears sleep?
That's a good question. Wherever they can.
Wherever the bears sleep, is that what you asked?
I have a picture. Let's see, is the next one? Which may answer your question. That's not it. I guess I didn't include it. I have a picture. We were on the boat, and a bear, a cub, not a cub, a large male bear that was young, obviously, came down next to the ship, like right next to the ship. Great pictures I got of this one bear, and fell asleep right there on the ice. So I guess they sleep wherever they can. There's no caves around. Maybe if they find an ice cave in a glacier, they'll crawl in there. But otherwise, they have very thick fur. They are very well padded with fat, and so they don't usually die of hypothermia. So it's the closest I can come to answering your question. Now this picture, I don't know if you can quite make it out, but you see that one of its legs is in front of its nose, in front of its head. What it's doing is grooming itself, like a cat, like that. That's what's going on with this wasp. So animals take care of themselves like other animals do. You shouldn't be surprised. I was surprised when I saw this because I didn't know that animals did this. And an even better view is this. This is an insect grooming itself. This happens to be on my garage door. It's just taking care of itself in a comfortable place where it does not fear any predators, and it's cleaning itself up. So animals take care of themselves. Animals have behaviors that you see in insects have behaviors that you see in much larger animals also. This happens to be a soldier beetle, by the way, which also, there's a picture of a soldier beetle on the wall there. They're very interesting creatures.
If you saw that on your garage door, we see them all the time and we don't realize it.
You have to look.
Yeah.
Seek and ye shall find sometimes.
The color in it, the colors that you capture are amazing.
They're the natural colors. I don't usually color things. This happens to be a less pleasant picture. This is a wasp, which is a predator attacking a monarch butterfly chrysalis. It's broken it open and is taking pieces of the pupa inside the chrysalis back to its nest to feed its offspring. I assume to feed its offspring, although its offspring are no doubt still very young, but it has to feed them somehow. So this is what it does. They are predators. I've never run into a wasp that has objected to having its picture taken. And this is one example. What happened? So you've seen this. There are two versions of it posted. This is a blue heron. This was taken at one of the metro parks, actually in the Audubon Center, that I happened to be in the right place at the right time. And it looks like it's about to take off or it's landing, but that's not what is going on here. What is going on is the poor creature is trying to keep from slipping on the ice because it's landed on ice. And you can see here, it takes a step carefully, and it tries to move forward, and it slips. You can see it's slipping on the ice. So the animals are not perfect either for their environment, and it's just trying to stay upright on the ice. I actually don't know what it's looking for, but it's clearly not designed to walk on ice. It's a very cute creature.
Beautiful.
So it pauses for a minute, then it decides to groom itself just like the insects you saw. Grooming behavior is a calming activity for most of these creatures. Again with this. And sometimes creatures really are cute. These are puffins. Puffins are really adorable little creatures. I mean, they look like they're already stuffed animals. And they have this wonderful coloring on their beaks, which appears during mating season and presumably becomes attractive. And puffins occupy the same niche in the northern hemisphere that penguins do in the southern hemisphere. They eat fish. They're not very good flyers, and much of the time they spend underwater because they're really, really good underwater, much like penguins are. So they occupy the same ecological niche. And gather in groups. You can see that some of them have their mouths full of fish. They go collect the fish. So here, this one has a mouthful of fish. This one, which they are taking back, which they presumably are taking back to their young in the nest. This was taken at north of the Arctic Circle when the puffins were watching the sunset. Again, with the way it's projected here, you can't see, but they are. The sun is shining on them as it goes down. It was very picturesque.
Are you high up as your, this looks like the side of a mountain?
Was I high up? No, not particularly. They were not very far away, but they didn't care. The puffins that we saw, you swear that they were put there by the tourist bureau to entertain the tourists who came. They didn't have any fear of us at all. They were uninterested in us. So you could get good pictures of them.
Do you use large zoom lenses at all when you are?
Sometimes, but usually not. Usually I just have normal lenses. Besides, what's considered a zoom lens? The picture of the three bears going on the ice, that was done with a 600 millimeter lens because there was no way I was going to get near those bears. Occasionally, one does produce a work of art. I happen to like, this is one of my favorite pictures that I took. It looks like a medieval painting or a Renaissance painting, but it is not. It is a photograph. If you could see it in its original form, it's printed on canvas and it looks like a painting. It is really, to me, it's remarkable, even for me who took the picture, that it looks as much like a painting as it did. Unfortunately, again, with the screen being overlit, you can't really tell. But it happens to be one of my favorite pictures that looks like a work of art. So in this case, I will admit that some of the pictures I took look like a work of art. Okay, I think my time is up. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them.
What city is that, David?
I'm sorry?
What city is that?
The meeting of the Main and the is it the Rhine or the Danube, I think. Yeah.
What camera do you use? Not just a telephone.
Oh God, no! I do not take pictures with my cell phone because it distorts things too much. Because they have software built into it to make so that people will like the result, but I don't like the result because they do too much processing of the picture that I have taken. So I never use a cell phone unless I have no other camera around. Oh, I do use an SLR, or digital SLR, and right now I'm using a Sony. Many of the pictures you saw were taken with a Canon DR5. Yeah.
My question has to do with of the animals that are pictured. What degree will the animals and those of us who want to find them be hindered by a change in the people who are paid to watch over some of the spaces and the individuals. You know, it's not just as easy as, well, we should have fewer people working in the parks. The parks are there, and so are the animals. You might not say that about the insects, but you might.
And I have said that about the insects, that they're dying because we're not taking care of them. And there's nothing I can say about you're right, that there is scary stuff that's happening in this country anyway. They're much more aware and have a much longer tradition of taking care of nature in Europe, where I have taken some of the pictures. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of the ones that do look like paintings. How did that process, how does that happen, or what is that a result of?
It's a result of my pulling it into the computer, getting rid of the mistakes, like, for example, the noise, the digital noise that happens, and emphasizing the parts that I saw as being crucial when I took the picture. I have to have a good enough memory to remember what I saw, but that's what it is. So, for example, not an example that you saw here, but one of the ones that's over there, the Harvest Man, which I don't see right. Oh yeah, the Harvest Man there in the second row. I needed to do a fair amount to make that look like it does, because the Harvestman itself, and especially the parasites that cling to its legs, needed extra help in shining through, as it were. So it's a question of, I want it to look like I saw it, and so I do what I need to do to make it do that. I think my time is up. Thank you very much,
Greenberg,
people.
thank you for bringing your science as a geneticist to photography and bringing all these beautiful creatures to us today.
It's all the result of evolution and genetics.
Oh, it's amazing, amazing.
It is.
And Susan, wife of David.
She's
Such
the
a
one that woke me up
companion.
she's the one that woke me up on the ship to watch the aurora borealis.
I was going to say, you by his side doing all this wonderful photography. 2 weeks from today, April 3rd, we have an artist, Melanie Cornelius, who's a watercolor artist. So be with us, third floor in the audiovisual room. All right? Thank you. Thank you for being here, celebrating 3 for the Earth. And David is one of them, for sure.